was no
little bean.
He was no taller than you, Krysta, and he was lighter than you.
He was shorter than you, Krysta, and weighed about quite a bit less than you do.
So,
just for you who don't know, I think I'm like 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah. So he's quite a bit shorter than you.
Right. So he was not a big guy. He buys this land in Homestead City, Florida. Mm-hmm. And now, everybody expected he would build a home. In fact, the Homestead Enterprise newspaper published a notice that Leeskalnin, a Californian, has purchased an acre of the R.O. Mosier homestead and is planning to erect a home soon. Now, over the next 20 years, Leeskalnin constructed a massive structure that he called Rock Gate and dedicated, in his own words, to the girl who had left him years before. He worked alone. He worked mostly at night.
So did he sleep at day?
I don't know. I do know that he eventually quarried and sculpted more than 1,100 short tons. And by short tons, we're talking these stones were 1,000 pounds each, or almost. So that's quite a lot.
It's quite heavy.
Oh, yeah. And remember, let's keep in mind, 5 foot tall, 100 pounds.
How?
Exactly. That's kind of the point of
you
the
are
whole
shorter
story.
than me, and you are...
Now, have you seen the pictures of this place?
Pictures? Yeah.
You looked at this crystal castle?
Yeah.
Coral Castle. I know it's
Castle. I don't know why I said crystal, because you said it earlier.
It's one of those things that it's easy to slip into.
I'm right here, I can build my own castle.
Sure you can.
I can try. I probably won't be as successful.
Now, when people would ask him how he moved all these heavy stones on his own, his response tended to be something along the lines of he understands the laws of weight and leverage, and he knows the secrets of the people who built the pyramids, by which he was referring to the Great Pyramids of Giza. Now we know the only thing that he used other than tools that he could afford, which wouldn't be big tools, but the only thing that we know he used is a tripod that had a metal box on top. Nobody knows what it did. Nobody knows how it did it, but nobody knows how it worked. So, nobody knows how he moved all this stone. But this is a beautiful place, all this rough-hewn stone, right? Mm-hmm. Now, at some point in the 1930s, he hired a truck and a driver to move the entire Coral Castle to Homestead, Florida, which actually closer to a place called Leisure City, Florida, which at the time was the southernmost place where people were living in the U.S. And again, wasn't real populated. But he had a 10-acre area that he set this up on. And you could go and visit it for free for some time. But after a while, he became very upset that the people that would come and visit Coral Castle would step all over his shrubbery, and it made him mad, so he started charging a dime. You had to pay a dime if you wanted to see it. But the thing you have to remember is, like I was telling you yesterday, Krysta, in the 1940s, a dime would get you into the movies.
So $10,000 must have been rich for them.
$10,000 would be like $1 million today. I mean, for 10 cents back in the day, you got 2 movies, you got a newsreel, and you got cartoons.
I wish we could do that. But I also don't, because that would be bad.
And theaters back in the day were different than they are now. They were palaces compared to what we have now. I mean, these sweeping big rooms with multiple balconies. It's so different today. What we have today is these kind of crackerbox theaters that have nothing in common with these opulent showrooms of the 1940s. So to say that charging a dime doesn't seem like a lot, but back then it was a lot. I mean,
Right.
in the 1800s, I remember when I was in school, we watched a movie, and the whole point of the movie was sort of to track the way prices had changed over time. And like in the 1880s, a woman was saying, I don't know that we can afford to eat at this restaurant. The steak is 25 cents.
Right.
But by the 1920s and 30s, well, actually 1930s and 40s, they would say times were as tough as a 2-bit steak. Well, 2 bits was 25 cents. So it had changed quite a bit. 25 cents had gone from being really expensive.
So if you pay $1 to somebody, if you pay $1 to somebody for 2 steaks, would that work, or did they have taxes back then also? I know I'm asking all the questions that you didn't think you had to answer, did you?
Well, Krysta, I just don't know. I don't know where to rank your. I'm sure there are places you could go and get 2 steaks for $1. Absolutely, there were. But I do not know if people were paying sales taxes at that point in time. It seems to me likely that they were, but it's nothing I studied for sure, and I don't want to commit to that. So I'm going to say...
I have no clue. That's what I'm going to say.
I'm going to say...
Not a clue.
It might have cost you, $1.02 or something, because even if they had sales taxes, I doubt that they were the level they are today.
Yeah, you can pay like another $5 for groceries.
Well, taxes are something like, especially like sales tax is something on the order of like 5 or 6%. So basically, if you spend $1, you're going to spend another 5 or 6 cents.
Yeah. Normally, you go up by 5, so I normally count. After I say 1, I say 5. So after I say 2, I say 10. It goes kind of like this. 1, 5, 2, 10, 3, 15, 4, 20.
Right. So yeah, that's what we now. For the end of his life, he lived near Coral Castle. You could come and visit for a dime. As far as he claimed, all he ever ate was crackers and sardines. So he must have smelled wonderful.
I wish he showered. Did they even have showers back then?
Showers and baths, yeah. On November 9th, 1951, he checked himself into Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. Apparently, he suffered a stroke either before he left for the hospital or at the hospital. He died 28 days later of pyelonephritis, which is a kidney infection, at the age of 64. And his death certificate noted that his death was the result of uremia, failure of the kidneys as a result of the infection and abscess. He also, during his life, published 5 pamphlets on various subjects, advertising them in local newspapers. And most of them were on magnetic current. A few of them were on his rather odd philosophies on male-female relations that I'm not going to get into because to my mind they border on pedophilia, and I did not make this show to expound on things like that. So
yeah, he told me in the car, and I really don't want that to
we don't
interfere with the podcast.
So that is the architect of the Coral Castle. And to call it a castle is a bit much, but it's this amazing Stonehenge, like almost a playground. And again, we have no idea how he single-handedly quarried and built it. It is amazing to me that here we are, 90 years, almost 100 years removed from its building, and we still can't replicate it. At least not the way he did. And to talk a little bit about how amazing this place is, there was a door that he put on a structure, and the door weighed a couple of tons, but a child could push it open with one finger.
Yeah. So wait, tons. How much is tons, Dad? Just for the children out there that don't know.
I think a ton is 1,000 pounds, maybe 2,000.
So 1,000, 2,000 pounds. But you said a child can open it with their one finger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. They could.
Are you talking toddler child, baby child? What type?
I'm going to say.
Really matter?
I'm going to say a 6-year-old.
A 6-year-old. So that's kind of inching towards actually kid ages.
Child.
So yeah, if you're 6, you're probably not, but you can push open the door. Lexi could probably open it. She's not 6.
Could have. The thing is that the door stopped working in the 1980s. And so they got a construction firm in to try to fix it. Well, they managed to move the door, and they realized that what he had done was set up a pole with a truck bearing, and the truck bearing was what let the door swivel. And the truck bearing had rusted out. So they replaced it with what they said at the time was a better bearing. Well, it rusted out 20 years later. And so they have fixed it again, but it's not as easy to open as it was originally.
Was it... So they fixed it again. Was it the same when they did it the last time?
I don't know. I couldn't find details on how they'd repaired it, but I just know that originally the universal agreement was a child could push this door open, and it weighed tons.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
But it was because it was balanced on this pole.
It has to be balanced the correct ways.
Right. And
because if it's not balanced the correct ways, it wouldn't be able to push open so easy.
And that gets into him being a self-taught engineer. The fact that he put this together is not as amazing to me as the fact that he did it by himself.
Oh yeah, no, he could. If he did that with somebody else, that would be much more amazing to me. But with him doing it by himself, with him doing it with someone. What did I just say?
You said if he did it with someone else, it would be much more amazing to you. So I'm waiting for that explanation. Or
other way around.
Okay.
It would be much less amazing to me than him doing it by himself.
Right. And this is... And recently, as in the late 80s, it actually became a member, it recognized as in the National Register of Historic Places. And
so if you go to the Coral Castle Museum website, a portion of their description, and it's a beautiful website even if you can't go visit them, a portion of their description gives it as we have knowledgeable guides available to conduct tours. Features of the Coral Castle Museum include a 9-ton gate that moves with just the touch of the finger, a Polaris telescope, and functioning rocking chairs, all made entirely of stone.
Can I see?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have to say, most of the information I got in the castle itself comes from the Coral Castle Museum website. And they do say on the website that if you'd come there in the 1930s or 40s,
They absolutely, and that is definitely on the website as well.